Detroit has talent. That's the hashtag for the social media movement named Roster Detroit. The goal is to change the conversation about the contributions of African Americans to the city's comeback. It is done by sharing positive stories and identifying networking and business opportunities for Black men and women. Here now is the founder of Roster Detroit, Marlo Stoudemeyer, along with Mark Lee of the Lee Group, who has blogged about the project in Crain's Detroit Business. Thanks to both of you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
All right,
Appreciate
so
it.
tell me what inspired you to celebrate the contributions of African Americans right now in the city of Detroit.
Well, it all started with three things. So I was very frustrated with a Black History Month that felt kind of muted and kind of old. The images that I was seeing and hearing about Black men, particularly on Facebook and social media, and then this notion of Detroit not having talent. And every time we have a conversation about what talent is or what it looks like, it was the traditional white male millennial or the person riding in on their horse to save Detroit. And I said, that's not the Detroit I know. And so instead of me complaining, I said, you know what, there's people within my network, brothers who I can lift up. And I started doing a story, 2 stories every day. And just to tell people, like, these are the guys that I know. And then it took hold and it went wildfire, right?
Yeah.
And so basically over 50 days, I did 2 stories every day. And halfway through, I started getting calls. People wanted access to the talent. They wanted more stories. They wanted to know who these people were.
Yeah.
And I realized that this was much bigger. So I started working with a partner and we created Roster to really create that digital platform to disrupt that status quo that I just talked about.
Yeah. Where is that status quo coming from? Why are we having a hard time with this in a city that's 85% African American?
It's America. I mean, if you think about the way that America has set up, whether it be African Americans, women, people with disabilities, there's this notion that we've came up with around hidden talent. And so the majority, which is actually shifting, and by the year 2040, 2045, America will not be predominantly white. There's still this stronghold on this legacy and tradition of white America and these images. And so for us, we believe if you are going to disrupt the status quo, you have to change the conversation, the narrative, and the image of what talent looks like. But not just what talent looks like, but connecting talent to real opportunities. And so for us, we're saying that, listen, if there's not a table for us to sit at, we'll have to create our own table, our own platform. This is not exclusion of them, it's about inclusion of us in that conversation. And that's really important to me. And so to me, traditionally, you know, America has hired those who look like them, who they know, care, and like. And so it's relational. That's really what it is.
Mark, as the city changes, this narrative is changing, and in your blog, you point out that this city has a rich history that can't just be swept away by the things that we see going on now.
Yeah, excuse me. And the city does have a rich history. And let me just piggyback on a point that Marlo just made. From a business standpoint, people want to do business with organizations that look like them. And Detroit being 80% African American, we have significant talent here that needs to get to that next level inside the organizations across the city. From a business standpoint, the Boston Consulting Group did a study recently where they talked to over 1,700 companies in 8 different countries. And let's talk about the business impact. If you have a diverse team, you have an opportunity of getting 19% more revenue as opposed to a team that's not diverse. So in the city of Detroit, that's important with a city that's 80 to 85% African American. We need to have those opportunities, get those people at the senior level opportunities as well as other levels throughout the organization so that we can capitalize on the business opportunities for everyone.
So how are we doing with that sales pitch you just made about there being a business case for diversity in the business community here in Detroit?
Some people say that they're doing a good job. I'm going to beg to differ. I think that we still have an awareness issue. So a lot of organizations, and not to be critical of organizations, they're saying they're doing a better job. Maybe they are, but the reality of the situation is there's a lack of awareness. And when organizations understand the impact that diverse teams have on the growth of it long term, then I think that narrative will begin to change. But to Marlo's point, this is why this hashtag Detroit has talent is important, is businesses need to understand that if you do hire these individuals, you're really going to be set for the long term.
Yeah, I mean, to just even add on to that, one of the things that we realize is that you have to actually have a formula. So there's a three-step formula with Roster that most people don't realize. The first one was based on me writing those stories, was giving these people exposure and me validating them because of the platform. The second piece is a lot of these people didn't have bios, they didn't have professional branding packages. So now we're talking about professional development and personal branding. And then the third piece is us being a matchmaker to connect them to the opportunities, because what happens is a lot of times people don't know they exist. There's no pipeline, there's no inventory. And what really took it over the top was when I started getting inboxes from people who had jobs saying, hey, connect us to these people. We've placed about 4 people so far in high paying jobs. Our last person was making over $150,000 a year in the job that we connected them to, only because people are saying we need to make a quick hire and we don't know who to go to. And if you can't connect us, Marlo, we're gonna go to the usual suspects. And the usual suspect is typically a white male. And so what we're trying to do
Even
is,
in Detroit, that's
even
true.
in Detroit, because a lot of these jobs, to be honest with you, before they ever hit the streets, man, they've already identified people.
Who they
so
want.
the job that you think you're going to get on LinkedIn and Indeed, that job's accounted for, and it's usually because of relational dynamics. And so it's the proximity. And so my thing is, if we don't tell the story, shift the narrative, and disrupt that status quo, then nothing will change. It's our ownership to tell our own story. And then at the end of the day, it's also an opportunity for us to look at each other and say, I should be doing more business with Steven. So this isn't just a black and white issue. How do we support each other and lift that up? Because everybody's paying attention to the talent gap. And it's true, it's there. But while they're doing that, they're forgetting about the hidden talent that's available.
What kind of reaction did you get to what you wrote in Cranes, which is, a publication that goes to all businesses, but a lot of the white business community depends on that for information.
The reaction has been overwhelmingly positive.
Good.
And in fact, when I write a blog like that, it goes across the country. I got comments from people from not just in Detroit, but across the entire country, which made me feel good, because when I heard Marlo's story and I read about it, and we discussed it, I said, this story has to be told. And so I want to first of all give a shout out to Cranes for running that on my behalf, because I think it was very important. And I know that it's taken off since I wrote the article for you, that you got a lot more attention to it. So essentially,
you get more attention than this gets more attention.
The bottom
right?
line is we gave the platform, and that's the important part of the story, is to give him the platform to tell his story, and also to acknowledge other people who are talented, who deserve opportunities here in Detroit and beyond.
Yeah. So what's next with the Roster?
So what's next
Detroit?
for Roster? There's a couple of things. So those 100 stories will be curated into a book, and it'll be an annual book. Then we pivoted from black men to black women and started lifting up women and saying Detroit's future is female, because women deserve equal status on that. Roster is also going to spread across 10 other cities across the United States. But more importantly, we're going to start honing in on our key metrics. And our metrics will be, how many people did we help get jobs? How many people did we help get new deals? We want to put a business lens on top of this. We don't want people to think this is charity, this is just a feel-good story.
Like
it's a good business investment for people to invest in diverse ideas, cultures, and people. Because the future of their company, and not only the company, this country, depends on people understanding the value in diverse talent. And Detroit does have talent. And that's the most important thing that we need to know. We just hired 2 people, and we're building, and we're growing, and we're partnering. We want everybody to get on board with this hashtag and spread it across the nation.
All right. Congratulations on
Thank
a
you.
really great idea.
Thank you.
And thanks for being here.
You'll be featured next.
There we go. I don't need that.
Thanks for your time.